Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to talk about the Too Faced palette called Gingerbread Spice. It's one of their holiday palettes this year. We're going to take a look at it and see if it's any good. So if that's something you're interested in watching, you are in the right place. We are about to get into it.
I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf.
Alright guys, so let's talk about this particular eyeshadow palette. Now, I was actually a little excited when I heard that this particular palette was coming out, and the reason was I was excited to see them get back to making just a normal palette. So last year they made the chocolate gold palette, which was nothing but a textured palette, no mattes in it at all. So it wasn't a palette that I was particularly interested in. It was kind of disappointing for me personally because I can't really do anything with a palette that's nothing but shimmers, just personal preference. So I passed on it last year. Now, my stepdaughter actually wanted it for Christmas, so we got her the entire chocolate gold collection from Too Faced, and I had an opportunity to really look at that palette and play with it. And the formula was beautiful, and those shimmers were absolutely stunning. I would honestly say it was probably one of the best palettes in that format that Too Faced has ever done, next to the Sweet Peach palette. So those two, in my opinion, are the best formulated palettes that I've ever seen from Too Faced. But those palettes that are those kind of oblong palettes from Too Faced are very hit or miss. The consistency as far as good performance is concerned doesn't always seem to be there. And I don't know if it's because maybe they're switching up labs, or I'm not really sure. But I haven't been able to find really good consistency from palette to palette when you're talking about the kind of rectangle shaped palettes. So they also have these type of palettes, the peach palettes, and then they redid the naturals palettes. You know, these are okay, but it's the ones that are in like this format. So these rectangle shaped palettes with like the metal casing are the ones that I'm talking about. And it just seems like they've been really inconsistent. So, you know, it was kind of a roll of the dice with this one. I was just hoping that it was going to be good and maybe a favorite that I would like as much as I did the Sweet Peach palette that I actually really, really love. Now, these palettes are not cheap. These are $50 palettes, $49. But, you know, once you pay for tax, it's over 50 bucks. So you're talking about a $50 eyeshadow palette, and that is not cheap when you consider the amount of eyeshadow that you get in these particular palettes, and considering that you can't, it's kind of a gamble when you get the palette, you know, it's 50 bucks that you're either going to regret or be really excited about spending. For those of you that don't know, Estee Lauder bought Too Faced, and so I was really excited last year to see what that palette was going to be around Christmas time. I just wanted to see if there was going to be like any big changes in formulation, and then, you know, it ended up being an all shimmer palette, so I kind of missed out on it. But I did get a chance to at least stick my fingers in it a little bit, and it actually looked like it was a great formula. So I'm really excited for this one. I'm really excited to see how it performs. Now, Too Faced does claim to be a cruelty-free brand. I was a little concerned when I heard that Estee Lauder had purchased Too Faced as far as where their manufacturing was going to continue to be done at. Estee Lauder does do a lot of manufacturing in China. I was wondering if maybe Too Faced was going to start becoming part of that manufacturing ideology, and according to Jared Blandino, it's something that they would never do. He says they're going to continue to stay cruelty-free as a brand, and I genuinely hope that that is the case going forward. So far, it seems to be. So, like all the other palettes, this palette has 18 shades. It says it is a mixture of texture textured, highly pigmented mattes, shimmers, and then it also says that it has some sheer shades in here as well, which I'm assuming would be more like an eye topper as opposed to something really opaque with a lot of pigment payoff. The only reason I could think that you would describe a shadow as sheer would be if it was like a topper of some sort. So let's take a look at it. Let's go ahead and start with the outside, the packaging itself. It's that typical metal type format. You know, it's got like that tin type of a feeling to it. And then when you open it, you have a little mirror in here because you've got some pictures and stuff around it, which are kind of cute. It does smell like, I don't know that it necessarily smells like gingerbread, but it does smell like, I'm not sure, maybe cinnamon and some nutmeg. It just has kind of that toasty smell to it. This is a very warm palette, so it does have a good fall lineup, which I like. It's fall. It looks like it's got a good fall lineup. I'll give you guys a close-up of it here. Now, again, they describe these as sheer all the way to highly pigmented shades. It says they do that in order to give you a variety of quote-unquote gorgeous looks. They do say the ones that are highly pigmented are supposed to be one-swipe payoff pigments, so they should be really, really pigmented. It also says creamy texture applies and wears like a dream, and of course that it smells like yummy gingerbread. However, having said that, I don't feel like it's overwhelming. I think it's, you know, it's subtle. I think the peach one probably was a little bit stronger in scent than this particular one is. So it's not anything that would bother me or that you can still smell after you've put it on your eyes or anything. It's not that bad. But overall, the colors themselves look good at first glance. I actually like the layout. It looks like a warm palette with lots of warm neutrals in there. It looks like a really nice fall palette. So let's get into some swatches and see how the swatches look. Alright guys, I'm going to do this swatch for you guys a little differently. We're going to actually start with finishes that are all matte. So the first one is Powdered Sugar, that second one was Sugar Daddy, this third one is Look at My Cookie. The fourth one there is Figgy Pudding, that purple, and then we have a deeper purple, that's called Reindeer Paws. And then we have Gumdrop and a siren, apparently. That is Spices Nice, that orange one. And then we have Gingerbread, which is kind of an orangey brown. And then we have Gingerbread Latte, which is a brown as well. It's just another brown, except it's really light. It took a couple of swatches just to get that one to show up, but Gumdrop, that pink one, seems a little patchy. I don't know. The purple one as well, Reindeer Paws. That one seemed to struggle a little bit with the swatch too. But, you know, swatches are only half the story. So, yeah, here's all the mattes. The first three, I think, are a little redundant. I would have liked to have seen some different choices there. But, I don't know. I think they all kind of look the same. All right, so here are the shimmers. Now, this first one is Frostbite Me. It is very sheer. It's supposed to be a topper. The second one is Spiked Eggnog. I really like Spiked Eggnog. I think it's beautiful. The third one, which is kind of this really pretty orangey, pinky duochrome shimmer, it's called Hot Toddy. And then Oh Snap is next, and it actually looks like a matte, except it has sparkle in it. And then there's Bake It Till You Make It. And then we had Spiced Rum. And then next is Ooh Burn. And then that green one is like the Spices Life, which is that very last one. It's kind of a greeny, olivey one. And then we have Warm and Toasty, which is that bright gold there on the end. If you look at the third one that we laid down, that duochrome, that's Hot Toddy. It has a beautiful shift to it. That kind of peach to burgundy shift is stunning. That is probably the most impressive one for me out of all of these. is that one. I do like the kind of olivey toned one. I think that one is pretty, but other than that, I don't know. I think some of these colors might be a little redundant in this particular palette. So one thing I noticed while I was actually swatching the palette was, as you guys saw, there were a lot of tones that were repetitive through this palette. And when I first started looking at the palette itself, I thought, you know, at the end of the day, I'm only going to be able to get so many looks out of this palette. Whereas typically when you look at a palette with 18 shades in it, those creative juices start flowing and you're like, oh, I could take this color and that color. And I think the reason I had that reaction, I didn't realize it until I actually started swatching the palette out, was because so many of the shades in the palette, or the tones, the undertones in the palette, are repetitive. So there's like 4 brown shades in there. There's like 3 purple shades in there. You see what I'm saying? So it's not like you're working with 18 individualized colors. It seems like it's a very repetitive palette, kind of swirling around like 4 main colors, and that's kind of it. And truthfully, swirling around 3 main colors with like a pop of golden green in there. But you know, at the end of the day, if that's the fall looks that you feel like you're going to be reaching for and doing a lot of on a daily basis, then maybe that would appeal to some. But I don't know. I think for me, I was a little disappointed because I was looking for a little bit more variety, I think, out of this particular palette. I mean, if you look at the Sweet Peach palette, for example, while the name of it is the Sweet Peach palette, you would think you would have like a ton of different peaches in here, but you actually really don't. You have like this peach here and this peach here, and then you have this shimmer here. So the rest is purples and blues, and then you have a black, and then you have green, and you have some brown, you got a gold, you have pink and white. So there's a variety of colors in here, even though it's a peach palette. You see what I'm saying? So I was kind of expecting maybe the same thing from the Gingerbread palette, and it just seems like they kind of overdid it on a couple of the tones there a little bit. I feel like they got repetitive. So that was kind of the first thing that I noticed, and then we got into actual application, and I'll show you guys what application with this particular palette looks like. Now, I've worked with this palette for about 2 weeks now, and I'll show you what it was like putting on this eye look that I have on tonight. I filmed that for you guys, so let's take a look at that. Oh boy, guys, was working with this palette much more frustrating than initially I thought it was going to be. Alright, so here we just laid down a white base, and then we went in with gingerbread just to try and get a good transition going. And you guys, I blended and blended and blended and blended and blended, and as you can see, I just can't get it to really move and make like that nice kind of blown out blend there, and get it, you know, blended out up there towards the brow bone a little bit. I ended up going in with a gingerbread latte, which is more of a brown tone, just to try and see if I could force it to create a little bit of a gradient there. So I had to stack a brown on top of it because I just couldn't get it to blend out. And so I put a little bit of that brown there and a little of the brown on my outer corner just to try and get some kind of blending going on. That helped it a little bit, but at this point I was frustrated. So then I went in with Reindeer Paws, which is that deep purple. Just going to try and deepen up the outer V a little bit and see if we could get a nice dark outer V going. And you know, Reindeer Paws gave me a run for my money too. I had to speed it up because we were just blending and blending and blending and blending and blending and blending, and it was patchy. I was constantly filling in like little holes where it would blend away, and I'd have to get more product and put it back on there and see if I could keep it in there, and it just, I was really struggling at this point. So I finally was just like, oh my gosh, I'm just calling it. I need to put some concealer on my lid and just see if I can get a shimmer shade on here and just call it a day. So I put, actually it's not, it is concealer, basically. It's the P. Louise primer, and then I put the shimmer shade on top of it, which in this situation I used Hot Toddy, and I didn't like the way it looked either. Once I put it on there, I was like not happy with the look at this point. I was just frustrated. So I thought, okay, well, we'll go into the next eye and see what we can do. And, you know, see if we can save it. See if we can save this look. So I went in with the powdered sugar and just, you know, put down a nice base. And then I went back in again with gingerbread to see if maybe we could get it to behave a little better on this side. And it just doesn't want to blend. It just doesn't want to. I've tried different brushes. I've tried a lot trying to get this to go. Clean brushes with a little bit of product. I've tried working in light layers, and I just, and I don't know if you guys can see, but there's just patchy areas where it doesn't want to cover. It doesn't want to stick to the skin, and then it doesn't want to blend. And it's rare that I wrestle with an eyeshadow palette to this extent. I typically can work with just about anything and make it work, but I really wrestled with this one. So here you see me just getting some Spices Nice and just going in with that shade to try and salvage that transition a little bit. Going back in with Reindeer Paws to try and see if we can deepen the outer V again. And ran into the same problem. It just really patchy and doesn't want to blend. It's a matter of chasing down bald spots as you're blending. You find yourself, you blend it out, and then you have to pick more product up and like fill in the little holes where it's blended off and see if you can, you know, save it, is what we end up doing, is just seeing if we can salvage the look. And through the whole week of using this palette, regardless of what look I tried to come up with, I found towards the end of the look, that's what I was doing, was trying to save the look. See, you can still see, there's a bald spot that I just can't manage to get color to stick to. And it's unfortunate. You know, I did find that with as limited with these colors as you are, you can only really get 2 or 3 looks out of this palette because they're all so similar. I mean, but they're all going to be fall looks. It's a very seasonal palette. I can at least say that much. It's just frustrating. I think on this eye, I eventually just decided to see if we could do a spotlight instead of glitter across the whole lid. So I darkened up the inner corner, put some concealer or that P. Louise right on the center, and just decided to put the shimmer right on the center of the lid with Hot Toddy. And that ended up looking semi-decent. So I decided to do that on the other lid and just put Hot Toddy on the center only, and then darkened up the inner portion there with that deeper purple. And that looked a little bit better. I was a little more satisfied with doing a spotlight. Now I will say this color right here, Spiked Eggnog, is a stunning inner corner highlight. This I was thrilled with, and I've reached for this palette just to use that color for an inner corner highlight multiple times since I've gotten this palette. It is a beautiful color for the inner corner. At this point, I just put that purple underneath my lash line and just tried to smoke it out a little bit, and then just threw on some liner and some lashes and called it a day. This is what we ended up with. It's the best I could do, guys. It's not, I mean, it's not horrible, but man, oh man, was it painful. It was not easy. All week, this was not easy. So overall, at the end of the day, after I added some liner and some lashes, I feel like I was able to save the look, but I felt like I was doing that every time I reached for this palette. I felt like I was frustrated. I wasn't able to get some of the colors to blend out, and I feel like that's what I was doing towards the end of the look, that I was working to save the look so I didn't have to take it all off and start over again. There are some colors in here that I found particularly difficult to work with. Reindeer Paws, which is this deeper color here, I found incredibly difficult to work with. So was Gumdrop. I found Gumdrop incredibly difficult to work with. And then a couple of the actual textured shadows, Warm and Toasty, Bake It Till You Make It, I found were also pretty difficult to work with as well. And Frostbite Me, which is this topper here, really doesn't give you too much of a payoff when you put it on the eye. It's like a little bit of glitter, and I get that it's an eye topper, but I think I would like to see a little bit more of an effect there, or more of a punch there. It just seemed a little too sheer. I don't know, guys. Overall, I feel like for $50, the quality just missed the mark. I feel like the color choices could have been better. I would have liked to have seen, especially when you start looking here at the shadows that have like brown tones or undertones to them. I mean, you're talking about Gingerbread Latte, Oh Snap, Gingerbread, all of these type of browns that run all through here. You kind of have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 out of these eyeshadows that all run with like that brown undertone. I would have liked to have seen some different colors there that give you kind of some different color choices. I feel like the color layout was a little repetitive for me. Overall, I think this one was a flop, and I don't feel like it was worth the $50. And I really tried to think about it from a preference perspective. Is this just because I don't prefer these particular colors? Because some of you guys might. You know, in that situation, then I would absolutely Erica approve it. But at the end of the day, it's got to come down to quality. And at the end of the day, if it's going to cost $50, I shouldn't have any issues with any of the colors blending. I should really get a beautiful blend on the eye. If it was a $15, $20 palette, I could understand. But if a Bad Habit palette that I pay $16 for outperforms a $50 palette, that's a problem. And that's unfortunate, because you guys know me, I love my warm tones, I love my fall colors. I was really excited and hopeful about this particular palette, but at the end of the day, it's just not going to be Erica approved, and I wouldn't recommend it to you guys. Maybe if it was a little less expensive and you weren't putting such an investment in it, I could just say, you know what, there's 5 or 6 shades in there that just don't like to play well on the eye, but there are some shimmer shades in here that are actually stunning. The gold shade is stunning. The green shade that's in here is very unique and very pretty. They have a couple of those red kind of fiery shimmers that I think are beautiful, but at the end of the day, they have to perform. This palette has to perform. For $50, it has to perform, and it's just not... I can't excuse that many shadows in the palette not functioning. So at the end of the day, I'm sorry guys, this one was a miss. Alright guys, well that is it for this video. If you are new here, welcome. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. We have a lot going on, you guys. I have done an entire video on under eye area issues, because I know a lot of you guys have been asking for that. The video ended up being over an hour long, which we cannot do, so I'm thinking about condensing it down into like a 3-part series, dealing with all the under eye issues that we all struggle with and going over some product recommendations with you guys. So I'm gonna have to refilm that and get it re-edited. So it's been a lot of video and a lot of footage here lately. I'm also working on another project for you guys that involves a lot of editing. It's very editing intensive, so bear with me. I'm going to make sure that I keep cranking content out for you guys. I'm sorry it's taken so long to get something up here for you guys, but I also don't just want to sling something up here for you guys either. I want to wait until I actually have a product or something that I need to say to you guys. And going into the holiday season, I feel like this one has the possibility of being a popular palette. It's already sold out on the Too Faced site, even though you can get it out Ulta and Sephora. So being as popular as it is, I wanted to make sure that I at least gave you guys my opinion on it so that you knew before you went out and spent your coin on it. Now, having said that, again, as always, it's just makeup. So what doesn't work for me may work well for you. So take it with a grain of salt. All right, guys, I hope everybody is very happy and very healthy, and I will see you guys in the next video.